The infamous story of the Titanic is as fascinating now as it was back in 1912, and there are 7 priceless artifacts recovered from the wreck that are soon to be retired from public view. Here to tell us all about the limited exhibition is the creative director, Mark Latch. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, Alex. How are you?
I'm doing really well. It's nice to have you on. So this is really a priceless opportunity for people to experience the majesty and really the tragedy of the Titanic, right?
Indeed. You know, we're still fascinated by this story many years later, and this exhibition at the Luxor Hotel in Las Vegas walks you through the entire story. And we've got 300 objects on display, including the huge object behind me, the largest object of the Titanic that's ever been recovered from the ocean floor. But the 7 objects that you just referenced that are in front of me will be taken out of public display forever on July 18th. And the reason for that is, you know, we're most responsible for the health and the well-being of these objects, so they are with us for many years to come, so they can be appreciated and enjoyed by generation after generation. But these 7 have been deemed a little too fragile to be on public display any longer.
Right, that makes a lot of sense. It's nice to be able to preserve those, you know, at least to display them, you know, further into the future. Now, tell us a little bit about the artifacts that you have in front of you.
Yeah, they're pretty incredible. You know, we got the big piece behind us, but we've got these more personal items here in front of me. These cloth gloves, pair of pajamas found inside of a leather suitcase. We don't know who the owner of these objects were, who he or she was, but we know that it belonged to a passenger aboard the Titanic. It turns out anything inside leather, a leather suitcase, a wallet, a handbag, really protects the things that are inside. The chemicals used to tan leather actually repel the microorganisms that otherwise would eat away at pieces like these cloth gloves and cloth pajamas. And then we get to the paper objects, and I think people find these most fascinating. To be preserved all these many years later on the ocean floor, this was a waiter's pad from one of the restaurants aboard the Titanic. If you were a first-class passenger, your order would be taken on a pad like this. And then you get to really connecting with the passengers. This document showed the intention of second-class passenger Franz Pulbaum to become a U.S. citizen. Turns out he worked in the U.S. He got another gig in Paris at an amusement park, and he was making his way back. This document showed his intention to become a U.S. citizen, and unfortunately, 27-year-old Franz Pulbaum was lost in the sinking. And I had the incredible opportunity to get inside of one of the submersibles myself and take that 2-hour and 15-minute journey to the bottom of the ocean. And this piece was from Marion Meanwell's alligator handbag. It was recovered on the expedition I participated in. And it's actually a receipt from the purser's office. Marion Meanwell was given, of all things, a canary to transport from Southampton to Cherbourg. That was the first stop on the journey before Titanic set out across the Atlantic Ocean. And, you know, as fate would have it, the canary made it to Cherbourg, but 62-year-old Marion Meanwell did not make it to New York. She was also lost in the sinking. So these objects, they all tell a story. You know, this is about as compelling an object as you can find. Of course, we have the sock here, a fabric sock, but this was found in a suitcase. But this simple leather shoe found at the bottom of the ocean, away from the wreck, sitting there by itself, possibly a third-class passenger wearing this shoe. You can imagine, with all his hopes and dreams of coming to the United States, starting a new life, all ended very tragically on the early morning hours of April 15th, 1912.
Right, it is a tragedy, and of course the big piece behind you. Tell us really quick before we go, tell us about that.
Well, you know, when Titanic broke in half, it broke in half at the surface. The bow went under the water, the stern came up, and the Titanic was not built to support itself that way. So it basically tore in half near the surface and fell 2.5 miles to the ocean floor. We never take anything off the ship. We don't break things off. We find what's around the area, the debris field. Well, this large piece was found in the debris field, part of that area where the ship tore apart. So a fascinating piece with the portholes, the pieces twisted. You see the overlapping steel plates, how they were riveted together. It really brings you into the building of the ship.
Wow, this is all so incredible, and I'm sure that the exhibition is greater than the sum of its parts, so to speak, because I'm sure people will be able to learn a lot more than just looking at the artifacts. I'm sure that people can actually read up a little bit more about it, right, at the exhibition?
Reading, and it's quite a theatrical experience. I mean, you walk in, you get a boarding pass. You walk into the grand staircase, down a first-class hallway, out on the deck of the ship. What did it feel like that night? So it's a very theatrical exhibition. Nothing more important than these artifacts. The artifacts are the focus, but I think when you come to this exhibition, you will feel like you were a passenger aboard the Titanic.
I love that. That's, again, a priceless opportunity for people, and they really need to go out and experience it. So, Mark, thank you so much for joining us today and showing us these wonderful artifacts.
Oh, great to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you. And everybody else, stay right where you are. The Morning Blend will be right back.